Representative Landry. Ms. Pryor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 489 by Representative Landry establishes rates and brackets for purposes of calculating the tax levied on individual income.
All right, Representative Landry on your bill, whenever you get there.
And I have Jan right here.
Do you want to get started?
Oh, I didn't hear that you said that. Sorry. Members, I was sitting here listening to Rob McCormick, and oddly enough, he and I usually, while he and I usually don't agree on things, one thing we typically agree on is the working class and poor people back home, which is most of this state. As he noted, they don't have the opportunity to come down here often. They can't. They're working. They don't understand what's going on. They don't have the time to do this. And I also feel his frustration with we keep giving hundreds of millions of dollars to corporations. And where's the money for literacy? Where's the money for healthcare? Where's the money for bridges that we need? That's because the median income in the state is $55,000. $55,000 times 10 is $500,000, and that's what we're talking about today. This bill takes everything over $500,000 of your income and raises it to 4.75%. So if you make $500,000 and $37, you pay 3% on $500,000 and 4.75 on $37. Here's the basic financial difference in this. Right now, you make $500,000, you pay $15,000. You make $1 million, you pay $30,000. Under this bill, if you make $1 million, you would pay $38,750, which $8,750 is the equivalent of 4 raises. Is that right?
About, yeah.
4 teacher pay raises. That's kind of what we're talking about here. And guys, we're talking about 19,000 tax returns. We are literally talking about the top 1% of tax returns. And I don't know if there's anyone in here who makes over $500,000. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but I'm going to ask you to think about if you make over $500,000. Are you okay with paying a little more for teacher raises? If you take $1 million home, are you okay with paying for 4 more teacher raises? What Rep. McCormick was getting at as well is, while they can't tell us up here necessarily, most of our constituents can't tell us up here how they're feeling. They told us in March how they're feeling. They told us they don't trust us. That's the end of the story. They saw these 4 amendments. They saw a paragraph. They saw 100 pages, 130 pages. They said, we don't really know what's in this. We're suspicious. You said you're giving us a pay raise, then this is getting cut and this isn't cut. We don't really trust you. And what that comes down to is they don't trust us necessarily with their money because we keep giving corporations tax rates. We're not funding what they want. We know this $200 million, and by the way, I had someone else run some calculations, and it could be as high as $400 million. We know that that can pay for teacher raises. We know it could raise our $30 million in tutoring that dramatically helped raise our literacy rates. We could double that. We could triple that. There's a lot we could do with this money. And what's troubling to me is I know a lot of y'all are mad about this, frankly, probably, and maybe that means you're a millionaire. I don't know. But when you think about it, 4 years ago, I believe, this income bracket was paying 6%. This doesn't even go all the way up to where it was. The public heavily supports millionaires' taxes. It's in one of the documents I gave you. Millionaire taxes have worked great in other states. Massachusetts and Washington, I believe, are in a document here from 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, that was just written up. Their income coming in has helped with so much, with literacy, with transportation, with education and healthcare in general. we cannot cut our way to prosperity. We can't. We need income coming in. I mean, I can cut how much I spend at the grocery store each month, but if I don't have enough income, I can't pay for my mortgage. And I think that's something we need to think about as we keep talking about cutting and cutting and cutting. And we need to think about, we're called the House of Representatives. We do not represent this state. We have a lot of older people, wealthy people, people own a lot of property. There are not many of us, I only see a few of you here, who actually still have a job and aren't just resting on property or savings. So I was hoping you would think about this a little bit. I understand that a wealthy body doesn't want to raise taxes on anyone, but the amount of money we can get from 1% of people who will absolutely not notice this money, I think will go a long way to helping balance our budget that we're worried about. And I do have Mr. Moeller here, who knows a little bit about the details than me, and I would like him to remind us briefly about progressive taxes and regressive taxes, which is the norm for the most part in this country.
Well, hi, Jan Moeller with Invest in Louisiana, and I want to thank Representative Landry for bringing this bill. As you know, the tax structure and the budget go hand in hand. We have a balanced budget requirement in this state. And so the money that you raise in here is what pays for the budget that just passed out of that other committee. And we know that in the next few years, balancing that budget is going to get increasingly difficult. The 5-year fiscal status statement shows shortfalls of over $600 million just a couple of years from now. So the balance, budgeting is going to get tougher, not easier. And this is an attempt to raise some much-needed revenue to fund the needs of the state and to raise it from the families and households that can most easily afford it. 1% of the households that pay taxes in the state would be affected by this bill, and it would raise, when it's fully implemented, about $197 million a year. Again, we can talk about teacher pay raises. We could talk about Gator scholarships. That is another thing that the governor wants to fund. You could use this revenue to make community and technical college education in Louisiana free for everybody. The amount of fees and self-generated revenue in the LCTCS system is about $173 million. So you can do a lot of good with the revenue that this would raise. When you look at our overall state and local tax structure in Louisiana, it is regressive. Right now, if you are in the bottom 20% of income earners, about 13% of everything you make goes to pay state and local sales taxes. If you're in the top 1%, that rate is less than half. It's about 6.5%. So even with this bill, we would still have a regressive state and local tax structure. It would just become a little bit less regressive. And again, this is something that the public supports. There have been polls taken year after year. The most recent one I could find was from Pew Research. And they found that 58% of the public supports higher income tax rates on households above $400,000 a year in net taxable income. So this is something that has public support. This is something that other states have tried and have been able to raise revenue to fill important needs. So anyway, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but thank you for considering this, and thank you, Rep. Landry.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Moeller. Representative Eccles.
Mr. Bowler, you mentioned the Gator Scholarship Program. Do you and your organization support that?
We haven't taken a position. We were very concerned about the fiscal note, frankly, last year, and that's what I testified on in committee.
Thank you.
Okay. Representative Wilder.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. So the class warfare stuff has to stop. That's my opinion on this. So do you consider the fact that the lower taxes, lowering those things, create jobs, create job expansion? Do you believe that?
I've been hearing about trickle-down economics since the early 1980s when I was just a little kid, and I'm still waiting for that revenue to trickle down.
Okay, well, fair enough. I do create jobs. I employ over 400 people right now, and I can assert to you a couple of things. Number one, last year, my taxable income was nowhere near $500,000. Even though everybody in this room wants to think it is, asset rich and cash broke are two different things, and sometimes it's one and the same. And I also want to clarify that I still have a job. I spent all weekend doing my other job. So I don't like when we start with down those roads. When you increase taxes on the people who have the ability to make things happen, you stop expansion, you stop jobs. Mr. Mueller, how many jobs have you created?
Well, we have 15 people working in our organization, so I would say
That's what you
15.
have. Okay, that's
Yeah.
commendable. Well, I'll say this much. Our parish that I represent passed all 4 constitutional amendments, so I'm not sure who we trust. But I just, free tuition, free college. Somebody has to pay for that. And I agree that the state has a spending problem. I also agree we have a tax problem. I ran for office to try to lower the taxes, especially the ones that people bust their hump and work for. So I'll mention this on a side note. I mean, we have about $1,000 per tax on anybody who owns a car right now, per vehicle. So Representative Landry, with all due respect, how did you vote when it comes to, or how would you vote maybe when it comes to eliminating the tort reform? I mean, eliminating the laws that block us currently. Rep. Glorioso has a tort reform law, Peter Egan has a cap law, and there's a comparative fault law. If those come to the floor of the House, you support those in the
I'm
manner
not
that-
discussing insurance
Fair
or
enough.
civil law in here.
No.
We're discussing this bill.
I just figured that was a
Rep.
tax that
Walder,
everybody's
let's,
paying.
Let's stick to the
All right,
contents
no
of this
worries.
bill.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I would like to respond to a couple of things you said, if that's okay. So we pay taxes for bridges and roads, and we pay them to make sure our lower class or our lower income class has health care so that they can go to work. We pay for education because it is incredibly important that we have a literate population here. I'm not sure what you mean by class warfare, because what I've been seeing in this building is wealthier people going after the poor people in this state over and over again. That's my view of it. And that's why we bring bills like this, to remind people that we have people who are struggling. And last year and every year, we hand back hundreds of millions of dollars to big corporations and people at the top end of the spectrum. 2/3 of the people did defeat the amendments. About 2/3, I think 14 parishes passed them. But it's pretty overwhelming all over the state. I mean, all races, income level, that's what happened. And they, you know, are we going to go back this year or next year with some of them? I think so. And I think some of them will pass. But overall, the public said, I don't know what y'all are doing up there, and I don't think I like it. That was my view of it.
Fair enough. The reason I brought up class warfare is because the conversation started with everybody who has money and this, that, and the other, and I just don't like when we get into that to start. I think we should leave it to the objectives and not start pointing fingers at people who came from, myself in particular. My family was on WIC. I can tell you how to make any amount of macaroni off of block cheese, government pasta, and evaporated milk cans. That's what I ate as a kid. I brought myself out of that. And I wish we would create a culture where people want to lift themselves up instead of, in general, just talking about, hey, this is free college. I didn't have any free college. I had to pay all my loans back. So I came from nothing, 2 divorced parents. So when y'all start with, oh, you're the rich guy because I built something, that's what I would like to see us pushing, is how to get people to build stuff instead of just sit back and expect stuff. I'm done. Thank you.
I mean, Rep. Wilder, we're not talking about you in particular. If you want to get into who had it tough, we all could. We all had a different upbringing. There's all the people who aren't here who have it tough and who had it tough. I mean, we're pointing fingers at people to do 5 job searches versus 3 job searches. I mean, we point a lot of fingers in this building. But the fact is we don't represent as well the median income of $55,000. And all those people work hard. I mean, our state troopers out there, the 19-year-olds, they look younger every year. They start at what, like 45 or 50 or something like that. They should be paid a lot more. They work hard. I mean, that's what's troubling, is we kind of all look internally at what we went through and not necessarily look at what all of our constituents and all the people in this state went through. And we have things subsidized or free, if we're talking about that on Medicaid, because we need everyone in our society. We need all of those jobs done. We need the teachers' jobs done. You could not pay me enough money to be in a classroom with 30 second graders running around every day. I think they should make so much more money. And I think that's what we're thinking about here. How is everyone spending and contributing? And one of these documents I gave y'all, and I think, is this right? It combines like sales tax, income tax, all taxes.
All state and local taxes.
Yeah. So, you got your state trooper. I think that's about how much they make at the third one. So they're paying 12.5%, which is more than the combined sales tax than most of us, of the income they take home. Over $500,000, which is what this is, it's half that. And I know everyone says equal, 3% is equal, it's equal. It's not equal to what we pay from what we bring home. It's a lot harder for some of us. And guys, home insurance raising, I cannot stress enough how much that is about to bottom out our state. But anyway, that gets a little off kilter as well.
Well, I think my response came from the fact that it started with people here don't have to go do a job, and anybody who makes this amount of money. Not that that was directed at me, but it was directed in general. And I mean, you made the comment about somebody making over $500,000 a year only pays for X amount of teacher pay raises. How much are they already paying? I think, there's a difference between personal and corporate. Maybe I'm not combining the two because I'm not corporate America. I'm a self-made individual with a team of people who I have tons of single moms who run my business and help, and I've got multiple car loans out. I've got multiple things I do personally, and most people who own a small business do that already. So when you want to hit us with the higher taxes, or not even us, because I'm not in the number above $500,000, I think I was responding to that. So
That's
thank
good.
you.
Just to be clear, what I mean by a lot of our colleagues don't work, so many are retired and so aren't quite feeling the everyday. We just talked about, people over 65 with homestead exemption. I mean, there are a lot of people we work with who have retired, who have money in the bank, who have property. So the concerns are not quite the same as they are for my 55,000 person. So that's what I meant.
And Rip, while I was mentioning community college as an example, obviously this revenue could be used in any way that this legislature saw fit. This is really about, I think, the need to raise revenue to avoid the budget cuts that are otherwise going to be coming down if nothing is done.
All right, thank you. There's a few more folks here who would like to speak. Maxwell Martin, the Power Coalition. Thank you. David Lindenfield. And then Jan just spoke. Whichever one of you would like to start first, go ahead.
Good morning, members. Max Martin with the Power Coalition here speaking favorably on the bill. I just want to talk again to some of the potential benefits and or avoidance of loss with this increased revenue. The increased raise for teachers, which I know we have a vast majority of us agree that needs to happen. The funding for the community and technical college program. I know as legislators you have incredibly difficult jobs and you're often tasked with solving the immediate problems that face us today. But I just want to pull back a second. We are on the precipice of an economic transformation in this country, driven by AI, one that is going to stratify income and life impact of income stratification greater than even potentially the Industrial Revolution. And the greatest tool we have to combat that as society and as governments is education. And so at a time in the state of Louisiana, for the first time in my lifetime, at least that I can remember, we're seeing these great improvements in our third and fourth grade reading and math scores, and we're seeing educational improvements at the lowest levels. This is a time where we should be doubling down, and our concern is obviously if we face a shortfall, that those might be the first things to go. And so organizationally, we're in support of this extra revenue to make sure we solidify the improvements that we're making, that we pay teachers what they're worth, and we're able to continue to see those educational improvements. And then just personally, I want to say, I'm 27, so I'm holding on to the young professional title for at least a few more years, as long as I can. And my wife and I are that young couple who's having conversations about trying to stay in this state. We want to desperately stay in Louisiana. And our conversations aren't about tax burden. We aren't in the $500,000 yet, hopefully one day. But our conversations are about the school that our daughter is going to go to in the next couple of years. Our conversations are about the roads and bridges that we're going to be driving on. And our conversations are about the environment and the air that we're going to be breathing in the next 20 or 30 years. And so this revenue can help solve a lot of those problems, can help improve our state, and can help prepare the next generation to take on the AI revolution that's coming. And so encourage favorable passage. Thank you for your time, and happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Lineker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is David Lindenfeld. I'm with Together Baton Rouge. I apologize I didn't put that on the card, but so I can certainly understand and appreciate the desire of business interest in our state to be competitive with neighboring states and attracting people to come to Louisiana, and the tax policy is an important way of doing this. But it is only one way and needs to be weighed against other factors affecting quality of life. Businesses will certainly look at our complicated tax structure, and they are right in that it needs to be simplified. But they will also look at the rankings in U.S. News and World Report, which puts us dead last in all of the 50 states. This ranking is a composite of 8 categories, and in none of them does Louisiana exceed 44th in state rankings. So the issues that we've been talking about, teacher pay raises and the other ways in which our revenue stream is inadequate to meet our needs, I think needs to be addressed. And asking taxpayers with incomes over $500,000 to pay more is a reasonable and fair way to address this problem. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. There are no questions. Okay, Representative Landry, it looks like the board's clear and everyone who has testified. I'll read out the cards real quick before you close. We have here in support Peter Robbins Brown, Louisiana Progress Action, Susan East Nelson, Louisiana Partnership for Children and Families, Julie Schwam Harris with herself, David Lindenfeld, Together Baton Rouge, Maxwell Martin Power Coalition, Jan Moeller, Invest in Louisiana. And then opposition, we have Spencer Evans and Scott Simon with Americans for Prosperity. Can close on you, Bill.
All right, so since no one made a motion, which I am severely disappointed in, I'm going to ask if you can waive. I just want to say,
Representative Landry, I think they were assuming you were the one making the motion since you're on the committee. Would
no.
you like to make the motion? No? Okay.
I mean, that's not usually what happens when someone presents a bill and only one person asks a question.
Representative Willard.
Yeah, I thought you had already made a motion to report favorably. I'm happy to make a motion to report favorably.
Okay. I was just going to say, your budget shows your priorities, whether it's my personal one or your business one, what you decide to do next, or the state. And I think they're upside down. I think it's completely upside down what we're doing here. And I represent a large city, a poor city. Many of you do as well. You represent people making $55,000. And I think we need to think about what we've been doing, because we don't have enough, or rather we don't prioritize what we need to be prioritizing. I think they might have found money next door for teacher pay raises and cut a whole bunch of other things that really shouldn't be cut. I know things like this are not popular with our lobbyists, but they don't represent who we represent either. So thanks, Rep. Willard. I appreciate that.
Okay. Representative Willard has made a motion to report House Bill 489 favorably. Is there any objection? Representative Wilder objects. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice Chair Brass?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Bamberg? No. Representative Billings? No. Representative Eccles? No. Representative Gallet?
No.
No. Representative C. Travis Johnson? Yes. Representative Mandie Landry?
Yes.
Yes. Representative McMahon? No. Representative Ogeron? No. Representative Wilder? No. Representative Willard? Yes.
There are 4 yeas and 7 nays, and House Bill 489 will not be reported favorably.